and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and today we are doing a Game Week 33 tier list video. Guys, if you enjoy this one, make sure you drop a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here. Today, we're going to rank some players. Let's get started. So, as always, we've got 5 categories: must-buys, great transfers, good transfers, optionals, and avoids. We're going to put in the 30 most popular transfers in the FPL world at time of recording. And we're going to start us off with Ødegaard. And Ødegaard, I think, goes straight in the good transfer category. Maybe not the best Arsenal midfielder to buy necessarily, but what we do know is he is nailed on. He is a player who could potentially take some penalties if Saka is off the pitch, which he has been off the pitch a little bit more than we expected more recently. And I think going into the next 2 game weeks, nice fixture against Aston Villa, who are missing both Kamara and Douglas Luiz in the defensive positions. They are conceding a lot of chances and a lot of goals at the moment. I think Ødegaard and Arsenal really could get something out of this game. After that, we've got that double game week. I do like Ødegaard as a pick. Next up, Chris Wood. Really difficult one to place. I think for his value for money, 4.8 million, I think he has to be a good transfer. To be honest, they don't really have any tough fixtures coming up other than Man City. Man City is the one final fixture they have in this run, which is going to take place in Game Week 35, where Nottingham Forest might struggle a little bit. Now, Wood did come off early in that last game in Game Week 32, so just keep an eye on that one. I think he's going to be absolutely fine to carry on playing, though, throughout the rest of the season, and there's going to be some more good opportunities for him to get some goals. His form recently, 4 goals in 4 games, been absolutely phenomenal. Tony next, I'm going to put him in the optional category. I think there's potential here for him to do reasonably well against the Sheffield United team. The fixtures are very, very good actually for Brentford, but I don't know if he's been in the greatest form recently, but getting a penalty taker against Sheffield United is always going to be a good thing, and I do expect him to start, having missed out in Game Week 32. He should be back on the team sheet. Rodri next, he's going to go in the avoid category, and it's not that he's been such a bad pick throughout this season, actually playing in some more advanced areas, creating more and taking more shots on than previous seasons. However, I don't want to label him as a defensive midfielder necessarily, but if we're looking for attacking output for midfielders, Rodri is not one of the higher players. He's not one of the higher ranking players, if we're totally honest. No double game weeks coming up in the immediate term either. He's probably just a little bit of a waste of one of your midfield slots, which are going to be so valuable over the remainder of the season. Now, next up, Mbeumo. I'm going to put him in the optional category as well. A little bit cheaper at 6.7 million. And this Sheffield United game is a real opportunity. But I'm not sure Mbeumo has the same kind of appeal pre-Tony. He's not going to be on penalties anymore with Tony on the pitch. And I still think he could do pretty well. I would like to see Tony and Mbeumo playing together a little bit more to see if they can start cooking something up. Against Sheffield United, this is an opportunity. But I still just feel like Tony and Mbeumo may be slightly too short-term punts. Even though they have good fixtures moving forward, it's very likely that you're actually going to want to remove them for those double game week players in the very near future. Gordon up next. I think if you are free hitting in Game Week 34, he's actually a very good transfer at 6 million. Really good value for money, because if you are planning on free hitting in 34, what you actually need to be doing right now is building towards a Game Week 37 double game week squad. Or maybe that's going to be a bench boost, maybe it isn't. But this game against Spurs at home for Newcastle is going to present some opportunities for Gordon indeed. Saliba up next, and this is going to confuse a lot of people who maybe don't watch the videos to the end, who maybe people just skip towards the end and just look at the final placements, because they're going to say, how is Saliba an avoid? He is an Arsenal defender. Arsenal defenders are great, and I completely agree. But when I look through the Arsenal defenders to go for right now, Saliba is probably one I would not go for. I just think there's better value for money in maybe 3 other Arsenal defenders right now, if you include the goalkeeper as well. So we're going to place the other Arsenal defenders very, very shortly. But I think if you have a pick of the bunch, then you probably don't go for Saliba right now. And therefore, that makes him an avoid. If you already have Saliba, great. You definitely don't transfer him out. You look to keep him in your team for the next couple of game weeks. But again, there's just better value for money elsewhere. And if you have that option of getting whatever new Arsenal defender you want, it's probably not going to be Saliba. But I do want to reiterate, if you already have him, he is still a good player to own. But this tier list is about making transfers, not about players you already own. It's about which players you should bring into your team. And therefore, Saliba would be an avoid for me. Kelleher, I think, is also going to go down as an avoid. I do enjoy the fixture next week, this game week against Crystal Palace. However, I'm just not totally convinced that he is going to start in game week 34. So I would hold off on this transfer if possible. Maybe wait one more game week to see what the situation with Alisson is. If it looks like Kelleher is going to play in the double game week 34, both fixtures, then I think that automatically makes him a great transfer. But we just don't have that information yet. So if you can hold off one more game week before bringing in Kelleher, I definitely would try and wait for that one. Next up, Fabian Schär, and I'm going to put him in the avoid category straight away. Obviously, he's been doing pretty well with some goals recently. However, or even a clean sheet actually in game week 32. We should probably mention that. However, there's a big however. They play Spurs this game week, and Newcastle, they have been a little bit questionable defensively this season. I think they are definitely improving defensively, but when you're coming up against this Spurs team, do you really want to spend 5.5 million on a defender that you know is pretty much guaranteed to keep to lose their clean sheet in that game? Could he get an attacking return? I guess technically yes, but I wouldn't want to bet on that for this game week. I think you can hold off just a little bit longer before going for Fabian Schär in your FPL teams, which brings us to Erling Haaland, the most expensive player in FPL, who has been in mixed form this season. I think he is probably still a good transfer, but maybe it's a little bit harsh that I'm not putting him any higher than that. The problem is he plays Luton Town this game week. I think in general Haaland has been a player that you don't have to have given his price tag. I think that you can find value elsewhere if you look to avoid Haaland. You can spend a lot of money in other areas of your team. There is one problem. It is that Luton Town fixture. He is going to be probably the #1 captain pick for most FPL managers this game week, and therefore we have to bump him up to great transfer. If you don't have Haaland, make sure you have another player ready to go for your captaincy, because Haaland could do some serious damage to anyone who doesn't captain him against Luton Town. And that's even if you own him this week, because so many people will be captaining him. So we're going to put him in great transfer. I think that's probably the right place for him. I don't think he is an essential player anymore, given the price tag, given the value elsewhere, given other players are outscoring him at the moment. But I don't want to judge him too quickly. He scored against Crystal Palace. The games that he blanked before them were against the likes of, Liverpool and Arsenal. Really tough fixtures there. And I think when we get some better fixtures, he is going to be an essential player once more, particularly when we get to that game week 37 double game week that we're expecting for Man City. But for now, great transfer, and that's mainly due to the captaincy. No double in 34, of course, for Man City, and they will be facing Brighton in that fixture. Next up, Pedro Porro. I know he scored in game week 32, but I'm still going to put him down in the avoid category. He has got a difficult fixture against Newcastle this week, then a blank in game week 34. Unless you are, well, even if you are free hitting in 34, I still think Pedro Porro would probably be not the area I would necessarily spend my transfer this week. I think you can wait maybe until game week 35 before bringing in Pedro Porro into your team. His attacking numbers haven't been great generally. I know he got that goal, but that seems like a bit of an anomaly in game week 32. It will happen occasionally, of course. He is an attacking player, but his numbers haven't been quite there. It's a difficult fixture against Newcastle where a clean sheet is pretty much not going to happen, and the blank after that I think really does put me off Pedro Porro. I mean, to be fair, even in their double game week, in game week 35 and then in game week 36 after that, the fixtures aren't great if you're looking for a defender from Spurs. I mean, they're poor enough defensively as it is. When you add some really difficult fixtures, I can see Spurs conceding more than 1 goal per game. We're actually going to look at potentially minus points. I wouldn't be totally surprised to see a 2-pointer in a double game week because of the goals conceded in game week 35. But that is a conversation for another day. We'll talk more about Spurs and Chelsea assets a little bit closer to the game week 35 deadline, I guess. Next up, Onana. I think it's an okay this game week away against Bournemouth. I think he is a good goalkeeper for planning towards the future with a double in 37. And he has been one of the highest scoring goalkeepers consistently throughout this FPL season. However, I think I would maybe look to give him a miss this week because Man United are just looking so poor defensively at the moment. One of the poorest defenses in the league. So I'm going to put him down in this kind of area in the avoid section. Just don't think I would be going for him right now. I think we need to kind of get some more confidence in the Man United defense. Maybe a few players returning from injury might aid that, help that a little bit. But for now, he's going to be an avoid for me. Next up, Van Dijk. I think he is definitely the Liverpool defender of choice right now. If you're looking for a Liverpool defender to take into, well, this game week against Palace and then again into game week 34 with the double, then we know Van Dijk is going to be playing all 3 of those fixtures, which is actually a bit of a luxury right now when you're looking at the Liverpool defenders and goalkeepers no one seems to be nailed on at the moment. We really don't know where to go. So Van Dijk is that one guy who you can be confident on, and therefore he is a great transfer for this game week. But however, when we move to game week 34, we do another tier list then, we'll probably have a better idea about the other Liverpool defenders and goalkeepers, and maybe therefore we could find better value for money than Van Dijk. But for now, going on the information we have, Van Dijk, great transfer. And we're going to put another great transfer in. And I don't usually put a goalkeeper in the great transfer category, but this is Arsenal, man. This is Arsenal, and they are just so good at keeping the ball out of the back of the net at the moment. And you can get one of their defensive players absolutely nailed on for 100% of games for the rest of the season for just 5.1 million. It seems too good to be true. It really does. Of course, there are other defenders you could go for from Arsenal, some more expensive, some rotation risk, but Raya has it all. He's the full package right now. A couple of save points might benefit him as well here and there, and you never know about bonus points as well. In general, I think it's a phenomenal pick and a goalkeeper you can hold on from now until the end of the season. Even though he only has a double in 34, I think he is good even in the later games of the season. More clean sheets coming for Arsenal, and Raya is a great way to get involved in that. Jordan Pickford up next. An away game against Chelsea is not going to be easy. So I'm going to put him in the optional category. I think you can definitely potentially go for Pickford now. Obviously, a double in 34 is going to be pretty nice for him against Nottingham Forest and against Liverpool. Liverpool tough. Nottingham Forest, potentially clean sheets there, I guess. Everton's defensive numbers have not been great, though. So just want to put that one out there. Pickford, he's okay. He's fine. But I do prefer someone like Raya to go for if you have that spare Arsenal slot. Now, Liverpool are another team that have slots that you need to use carefully, but McAllister might be a nice way to go for it if you don't have very much money. I'm going to put him in the good transfer category. His numbers have been pretty good recently. He is obviously a set piece taker as well, and if you're not free hitting in 34, you want to pick up a short-term, nice and cheap, nailed-on Liverpool player. You can't afford the likes of Luis Diaz or Darwin or a defender maybe, then going in for an additional attacker could be good. Now, McAllister's been playing slightly more advanced recently, with Endo slotting in the defensive midfield position, which gives him a little bit more freedom. And McAllister's also doing really well for bonus points at the moment because he is, you know, that ticking heartbeat of this Liverpool team. He's doing so well at the moment, so we're going to put him in the good transfer category. And I'm going to put a player next in the must-buy category for the first time this season, and it's very rare I put a defender in the must-buy category, but at this point, there is no reason to not own Gabriel. There really isn't. He is the ultimate defensive asset for FPL. He is getting clean sheets pretty much every single game week. His attacking threat is phenomenal. Really good attacking numbers for a defender. Always looking to take a shot in the box during those set piece routines. Always got a good chance of scoring goals. And, you know, you occasionally get the bonus points as well if you get those attacking returns. He is a must-buy. 5.4 million. There is no excuse not to have this man in your FPL team anymore. Get him in if you haven't done already. You will not regret it. He is just so consistent, so reliable as an FPL asset. Now, Aït-Nouri, I'm going to put in, I don't know. It's got to be somewhere between good transfer and optional. I guess we have to put him in optional because of that yellow Dorito of death, because we don't actually know if he's going to be available for game week 33 or not. Now, my instinct says yes, that the injury is not significant. It's not serious. It's just feeling a little bit of tightness in his muscles and had to be withdrawn in game week 32, which was a bit of a shame for owners. But I think I would just be careful on this one, because if the injury is significant, then not only does it damage his potential in game week 33, but also game week 34, could we see reduced minutes there? So hold off on Aït-Nouri for now. As we approach deadline, maybe get some press conference information, we might get a better idea. And if Aït-Nouri is available to play now, he's doing very well, we can put him straight in the great transfer category. But for now, he's got to go in optional until we get more information about that injury. Isak, good transfer. Similar situation to Gordon. If you are free hitting in game week 34, why not go for Isak? Home game against Spurs this game week. Definitely some potential for goals there. Penalties are always very useful, as we've seen with Isak over the past few game weeks. And even when he's not been scoring penalties, I feel like he's been very unlucky, actually, to not score more from open play. He's doing really well at the moment. Really good player indeed. Next up, Mo Salah. Is he a must-buy? Probably not this game week. And I know that sounds weird, but Salah doesn't have his double until 34. If you don't have Salah already, you're probably not going to captain him this game week, because it probably means you already have Erling Haaland in your team, who is the standout captain when you compare these two players. Now, last game week, Salah was one of the standout captain picks alongside Cole Palmer, you would perhaps say. This week, it's going to be more of a swing towards the Man City players against Luton Town. So, is Salah a must-buy this game week? I'm not sure he is. I think if you don't have him already, you can maybe afford to wait one more game week without him. And if you're free hitting in 34, you could potentially go the rest of the season without him. Now, if he was doing a little bit better, if he was finishing his chances a little bit more, then we might be having a different conversation right now. But you can tell Salah is not quite in that clinical form yet. That could change very quickly, and by the time game week 34 comes around, he could be at his best once again. But for now, he is a great transfer, don't get me wrong, and a player you would love to have in your FPL team. But is he a must-buy in the same sense as Gabriel at 5.4 million? For me, he is not. Next up, Ben White. Now, this is a place I would like to spend my money for an Arsenal defender. Just 0.1 million more expensive than Saliba, but is doing better in terms of that attacking potential. He is doing really well for bonus points as well. And even though Gabriel is the better pick, most likely, and I'd even prefer Raya for value for money compared to White, White is still a phenomenal FPL pick. And again, getting those Arsenal defenders from now until the end of the season, who cares if they don't have any double game weeks? This is Arsenal, and this is the defense you need to invest in. All season, we've been struggling which defenders to invest in because clean sheets have just been so hard to come by. Well, Arsenal are just hoovering up the clean sheet points all season, particularly since the turn of the new year. Clean sheet after clean sheet, 5.9 million would be well spent if you're looking for clean sheet points. And we've got more players who we need to put in these high transfer categories today. Luis Diaz, I really, really like as a pick. In fact, in terms of value for money, he's probably better than Salah at the moment, but we're going to put him just behind him there. Crystal Palace, again, is the fixture up next. Then we've got the double game week. He's 7.6 million. He is in great form at the moment. Unlike Salah, who is a fantastic player, getting more opportunities, but maybe not in the best form of his life, Luis Diaz is really at the top of his game at the moment, which is really, really nice to see. So going over the next two game weeks, I think he probably is the second best Liverpool asset to take in your team at the moment. The third best is either Van Dijk or maybe Darwin. I think Darwin is a really nice pick as well. If you have an open forward slot, you've got a forward you may be willing to sell, and that's the way you want to invest in the Liverpool attack, it's definitely a good place to go as well. I think Luis Diaz and Darwin should be reasonably good for minutes in the double game week, particularly with Darwin though. Even when he is a substitute, he often comes on and causes some damage, causes some chaos in the late stages of the game. So it doesn't matter as much when Darwin is on the bench. He can still do a lot of damage. And I think, to be fair, in general, we look at these next fixtures, you would imagine that Salah, Luis Diaz, Darwin is the first choice three attackers right now. We might see Jota come back into the team, getting few minutes very soon. But up until now, to the double game week, I think you're pretty much safe on the likes of Luis Diaz and Darwin. Love these picks. And we've got to go again. We've got to go again with all of these great transfers. There really is so many fantastic options at the moment. The next one is going to be Kai Havertz, a player I would absolutely love to have right now. 7.3 million, playing as a striker, listed as a midfielder in the form of his career. Honestly, he is doing so well at the moment. It's incredible that you can get a out-of-position midfielder who's playing as a forward, in great form, playing for the first place team in the Premier League at the moment for just 7.3 million. It really is such a bargain and an unexpected, amazing FPL asset as well. Again, up against this Aston Villa defence that are struggling a little bit at the moment. I think Havertz can once again have that opportunity to cook against Aston Villa. And then we've got the double game week, which again, given his form, he should be nailed on for. Which I didn't think we would be saying previously, but if he keeps scoring goals, if he keeps getting assists, if he keeps being so crucial to this Arsenal attack, then there's no reason for him to drop out of the starting 11. Continues to be a fantastic FPL asset, particularly for the next couple of game weeks. After that, you maybe look to sell him. But we need to talk about Saka next. And honestly, at this point, do we think Saka is a must-buy? The kind of injury situation and the rests that we're seeing, the reduced minutes, Does put me off a little bit, but I still think he is definitely a great transfer and a player you definitely want to have in your team. We're going to put, I think, you maybe even put Havertz ahead of Darwin, you know. And Saka would probably go in this area as well. If you don't fancy Salah as a captain for game week 34, then Saka's probably your vice captain, second choice captain for that game week. Definitely a great transfer and a player, you really do want to have in your team if possible. Next up, Garnacho, and we need to stop putting players in the great transfer category, but Garnacho is still pretty decent. He's still pretty decent. Away against Bournemouth, I don't think is the best fixture in the world. No double game weeks coming up soon, but again, if you're looking for a cheap player and you are free hitting in 34, you're planning towards game week 37 for those double game week players. Man United will have that double game week in 37. Then Garnacho is probably going to be a big part of your discussion. So yeah, let's put him in the good transfer category, maybe slightly above Chris Wood. Now, we've got a couple of Man City players coming up next. Phil Foden, yeah, he's a great transfer. If I'm free hitting in 34, then Phil Foden is probably one of the first players I would buy. Against Luton Town, the form that he's been in, we expect after a full rest in game week 32, Foden should be back in the 33 lineup, should play a decent amount of minutes, and if he continues the form he's been in recently, it could be absolutely insane. It really, really could. I think if you want to go differential on your captain this week and we get the news that Foden is going to start, then Foden is definitely a captain option as well. Really, really like this pick, but only really if you are free hitting in 34. If you are planning on not free hitting in 34, you may be forced to spend your transfers elsewhere and load up on more double game week players, which Phil Foden is obviously not. Man City, again, play Brighton away in game week 34. So it's not the best fixture in the world. It's okay. It's not the best fixture. Next up, De Bruyne. De Bruyne is going to go in the good transfer category for me. I think he comes with some risk. The main risk is his price. If you bring in De Bruyne, you're going to have to sacrifice someone else. Is it going to be a Salah? Is it going to be a Son? Is it going to be a Haaland? I don't know. Is it going to be a Saka potentially there as well? I don't know. And I think that's the problem with bringing in De Bruyne because of that price tag. It's going to be difficult. And I don't know if De Bruyne is nailed for this Luton Town game either. We're seeing a little bit of rotation, a little bit of a reduction of minutes for De Bruyne as we approach the end of the season. We know Man City have a whole load of fixtures, and the fact that De Bruyne played the full game pretty much against Crystal Palace does put me off him for game week 33. You imagine he plays in the Champions League against Real Madrid, and then in game week 33, you potentially get that rest for him. I think the Luton Town game is a prime candidate for a rest for De Bruyne. That said, if he starts, could be really, really nice. A really nice differential to go for, but I'm just not 100% convinced by it. And therefore, maybe we even drop him lower. Maybe even drop him around there, to be fair, because, yeah, I think there's some risk there. But, guys, let me know what you think about De Bruyne. He's one of the most popular transfers in at time of recording. The third most popular transfer in, actually. Do you think he starts against Luton, or is that Luton Town game actually the perfect opportunity for him to be rested with Real Madrid one side of it? He's just played 90 minutes. After that, we're going to have FA Cup, more difficult Premier League games, against Brighton, which is a tougher fixture than Luton, and of course, FA Cup as well. It's going to be really, really difficult to play De Bruyne every single game, and I think the Luton Town game makes sense as the rest game. But yeah, if you think I'm wrong, please do let me know. It'd be good to hear from you about that one. Now, Cole Palmer up next. Where do we place him? I think we probably put him somewhere in the good transfer category. I don't think he is a must-buy for this game week. Let's drop him in around here. We've got Everton at home this game week. Then we've got Arsenal, which is just, the toughest of the tough games for any attacking player. After that, we do have a double game week, though, with Spurs as their double game week fixture. So, do you go for Palmer now if you don't already have him? Hopefully most of you guys already have Palmer in your team, but if you don't already have him, I think a lot of people will actually look to potentially, maybe even be forced to sell him in 34. He's probably going to be benched for you in 34, even if you do keep Palmer in your squad. And this game week, yes, it's a decent fixture against Everton, but when you look at the next two game weeks, I think there is more potential going for a player who you're going to play for 3 fixtures. If you're looking at double game week players, for example, You know, Palmer for 3 fixtures is going to be playing, well, 1 game in the next 2 game weeks for you. Where if you pick, I don't know, McAllister, he's going to be playing 3 of 3, or you know, in the next 2 game weeks. So you're going to get triple the amount of fixtures out of a McAllister compared to a Palmer, so long as you are not free hitting. If you are free hitting in 34, I guess Palmer actually is he's actually a pretty good transfer. So let's put him. Maybe, you know, he's probably above Gordon if you are free hitting in 34, but I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like there's other areas you go. I think I'd prioritize Man City, for example, if you're free hitting in 34 because of this amazing Luton Town fixture. So he can go there. Good transfer. He's going to be an essential player from game week 35 onwards. Right now, I don't think he is a must-buy. I really don't. But that's just my opinion, guys. Let me know what you think. Especially if you're free hitting in 34, you probably have something very different to say about Palmer potentially there. And finally, the #1 transfer of the game week. Everyone's buying him right now. His name is Ollie Watkins. He's returned with a bang against Brentford, but he plays against Arsenal this game week. I think Ollie Watkins is always going to be at least an optional. You know, he's the highest scoring player in FPL at this moment, isn't he? However, this Arsenal fixture is really, really tough. If we're saying that Arsenal are looking likely to keep clean sheets in every game, the best you're going to get out of Arsenal is 1 goal. If Aston Villa do score, it's probably going to be Ollie Watkins, but even then, you know, it's far from a guarantee. After that, you know, there's no double game weeks for the rest of the season for Ollie Watkins. It's so difficult to put him in your team. I know it is, but he is a really good player. Just now, I feel like it's just not the time to bring him in. It really, really isn't with this Arsenal fixture. It's like possibly the worst time to bring in an attacker for the last few years is right now a fixture against Arsenal. Arsenal are the best defence we've seen in years in the Premier League. So, yeah, don't think I would go there. Think I would look to avoid it. Away fixture against Arsenal is just too tough, particularly when you're spending 8.8 million on a forward. Surely there's some other forwards this game week who could do just as well, if not better. Controversial, I know, because Watkins is the highest scoring player in FPL. He is the most popular transfer of the game week. Let me know what you think about Ollie Watkins, but we can't say at the same time Arsenal are an insane defence and we should pick a player who's about to face Arsenal away from home. Those two viewpoints are just not compatible. There's got to be better ways to spend your transfers over the next couple of game weeks. So yeah, Ollie Watkins, he can go in optional. I think Tony outscores him this week. I think Darwin outscores him this week. I think Isaac outscores him this week as well. Maybe even Chris Wood as well. So yeah, wouldn't be the top of the pile for me. But yeah, let me know what you think about that. Of course, that completes our tier list. All of the players are on screen now. These are just the 30 most popular transfers at time of recording. If a player is not on the screen, it's because pretty much they're not a very popular transfer. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about them. So let me know, guys, if there's any players you feel you would like to talk about who you want me to place on the tier list. Let me know in the comments. Just leave their name in the comment section and I will be back with you with a reply of where I would personally put them on this tier list, even if they aren't such a popular player. But there we go. Let me know what you think about the tier list this game week. If there's anything, you know, that you don't agree with there, would love to hear from you guys. Bit of a long one today, guys, but this is so much I wanted to talk about. So many players I wanted to go into detail about. There's so many great picks this week. There really is, which just reflects on the tier list. I mean, there's so many players in the higher tiers this game week. But yeah, please do leave a like if you did enjoy this one. Do subscribe if you are new around here. We did a video yesterday actually talking more about double game week players for 34. Do go check that out if you want to learn more about the double game week 34 options you have that you can bring in right now. And aside from that, we'll be streaming later. So I will see you later on our strategy stream, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.